Hello, I'm Chris Banks. I'm a rancher in Chesterfield, Idaho, and I've been born and raised here in Chesterfield, grew up on my family's cattle ranch. And we have raised cattle and alfalfa and small grains pretty much my whole life. And I have kind of grown up out with the cows and calves all the time. And so I guess you could say that from the time I was born that agriculture has been in my blood. And as I grew up and would be out working with my dad and with my uncle, I kind of always knew that it was going to be part of who I am and part of what I wanted my family to be able to do. And we've been able to keep moving forward. And as I was growing up and going to school, one of the things my dad told me at an early age was, I don't care if you want to come back and be a part of the ranch and be a part of agriculture. But what I want you to do is to be able to go out and get an education in the event that you need something to fall back onto, because unfortunately in agriculture sometimes it's a little hard to just make a living strictly on ag. And it was probably the best thing that he could have ever told me, and he has given that same speech and talk to all of my siblings. And every one of us have gone on and been able to get a college degree. I graduated from Idaho State University in 2008 with a degree in teaching. I have a degree in physical education with an emphasis in outdoor education. So we were lucky enough at about the same time period to be able to get this first 400 acres that we bought. And we started running it. It was just open land. It wasn't fenced, it wasn't developed or anything. It was just open land. And it had been farmed, and it was mainly in dryland alfalfa. But the previous landowner had deceased quite a few years ago, and it had been in a family trust. And one of their distant relatives had kind of been farming some of it, but a lot of it was just kind of laying here. And so our first step was, after we were able to get this purchased, we were able to do it with a beginning farmer and rancher loan through the Farm Service Agency. We started developing it by fencing the perimeter, and then we started working. I signed up for a program through the Natural Resources Conservation Service on my own through an EQIP program, and they helped me to cross fence my whole place. And then we were able to start making it functional for us. They also helped me drill a well, which we put a solar panel on, and then we put in 9,000 feet of pipe, and now we have water troughs spread out clear across our place so that we can water livestock, and we can rotate through each of our different fields and our pastures. And slowly but surely I've been working to try and make it productive, ripping out old alfalfa fields and planting small grains, and trying to get myself on a rotation where I can make my soil healthier and more productive in raising feed for my livestock. Pretty much here in Chesterfield, everything that we raise in our family, we feed to our cattle. So when we raise small grains, we put it in a bell. We feed a lot of a mixture of oats, a three-way mix of oats, beardless barley, and beardless wheat, and sometimes we throw in a little triticale, and then alfalfa, of course. And then we'll mix that with straw in the early part of the winter, and then we'll transition over and use straw for bedding for our calves as we get into the calving season. And after working from 2006 until 2014 for the Idaho Association of Soil Conservation Districts, I had the thought that I could probably go out and do this on my own. And so in 2014, July of 2014, my wife Autumn and I decided that we were going to go out on our own and start our own business. And so I started my own business, a consulting business called Conservation Basics, essentially being a grant writer and working with the soil and water conservation districts to write grants for them, initiate that project, find the landowners that were willing on a voluntary basis to participate in clean water projects, and then also to become the project manager, work with those landowners to make sure that the projects were being implemented properly, working with an engineer, Alan Johnson from the Soil and Water Conservation Commission, and George Hitz with the Soil and Water Conservation Commission, who also provides technical assistance. The three of us have been able to work with Bear Lake mainly, Portneuf, Caribou, Malad, and Oneida, and work with landowners all across southeast Idaho. And this business, in my opinion, it really took off. My ability to understand what landowners were dealing with on the ground, knowing that when you're trying to make it work out there, you're trying to put fertilizer on and irrigate and buy new equipment and everything that's involved in agriculture, knowing how expensive that is, I know that it's hard to find extra cash sometimes to be able to do these types of projects. And so these grants, they step in and help pay 60% of what those clean water projects are, meaning that the landowners, yes, they've still got skin in the game. They still have to come up with money. They can do labor, they can put some of the stuff in themselves, and their sweat equity helps go towards their portion of the project too. But the bottom line is my ability to know and to relate to them, because we've gone through it and participated in these programs, and I understand agricultural practices. It's just been a really good fit. Well, 2 years ago, my good friend who lives just down the road from us, he's the math teacher out here at the local high school, North Gym High School in Bancroft. He told me, he said, hey, there's going to be an opening in the science department at the high school, and he says, I know you've talked about someday wanting to teach. Maybe you should apply for it and see what we can do. He says, I think you'd be really good there. And at first I was like, oh, I don't know about that, and I kind of like what I'm doing. And we talked about it, and Autumn, my wife Autumn, is an elementary teacher. She's taught for 5 years, and then she's been off for the last 6 years, well, actually for the last 3 years, as we've had 2 little boys, and she's able to stay home with them now. So Autumn told me, she goes, I don't know if you want to do that or not. She goes, the kids sometimes are a little ornery, and she goes, I'm not sure that this is exactly what you really think it's going to be. But I've always enjoyed kids, and even through my consulting business, I've always tried to get kids involved and get them outside and involved in natural resources and agriculture and just any way I can. And we had just got done in 2018. I was the chairman for the Idaho Envirothon, and the chairman of the Idaho Envirothon for the national competition, where over 500 kids and advisors and supervisors came from all across the US and Canada and China and participated in a competition in Pocatello. We hosted that, and it was an amazing event, and it was right during that period as we were getting ready for that competition and stuff that I decided I would apply for this job, and I got it. And I was like, I really feel that I can make a difference, and I just love working with the youth. And so I thought, well, I can take my experience now of working in the physical and natural sciences for the last 13, 14 years and take that to the classroom. And so that's what I've tried to do. I do teach now science grades 9 through 12 at North Gym High School, and I enjoy it. It's just an excellent opportunity for me to be able to relate now real life experiences to my students, to be able to still do my consulting business, to still be able to ranch. And I know that sounds like maybe a lot of stuff. I have people ask me all the time how in the world I do everything, and I'll be honest, there's times that I'm tired, but I enjoy it, and I just like trying to make a difference, and I like being involved in people's lives. I just like to see people succeed, and I'm kind of a social person. I enjoy getting to know people, and I enjoy even trying to figure out maybe what, like my students, what they might struggle with, and I like trying to figure out a way to help them overcome that and to realize that it doesn't matter what that trouble is. If we can work through it together, that they can do or become anything they want to. The reason I do what I do is because I love agriculture so much, and to me here in Idaho, agriculture is our lifeblood. Yes, we're growing as a state, we're growing as a nation, and as a world there's just under 8 billion people that live on this planet, and there's becoming less and less people that are producing the food and the fiber and the shelter that we need. And so if I can in any way convince my students, the people that I work with, how important agriculture is, that they can be a part of it, that they don't necessarily even have to be a farmer or a rancher, but they can be involved in agriculture and other aspects, that there's so many STEM jobs out there that aren't even being filled right now. Water resource specialist, agronomist, soil scientist, just technicians, environmental engineers, all of these people working together to make sure that we can still provide for our kids' future. I want my two little boys to be able to do whatever they want to do, but hopefully if agriculture's in their blood like it is in mine, I've made this place a little better so that when it's time for them to take over, they can if they want to. If they want to do something else, I hope that it has something to do with agriculture. And they're already learning the importance of it and knowing where their food comes from and knowing the importance of making sure that our cattle are healthy and that we're doing everything we can to make sure that we take care of what we're stewards over. I think being in agriculture for me has taught me the value of hard work and dedication and sticking to it. There are times when you face adversity, when it's a drought. This farm that Autumn and I bought is a dry farm. And if we do not have a good winter, if we don't get early rains, then we just don't get the yield that those do that have irrigation. And there's a little adversity in that. I've got to make sure I have enough feed for my cattle and my horses through the winter. And we don't have easy winters here, you know, and so it's really taught me to work through adversity, but to remain optimistic. Are there days that we've had, you know, we've been down? Yeah, we're not always optimistic, I'll be honest. I don't think anybody always can be. But it definitely has taught me the value of hard work and to stick to it. And that if you do that, 9 times out of 10, you're going to come out on the other side. And, that old adage of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, I guess, is kind of a thing that we live by out here. And I just think agriculture, in all reality, has shaped me into who I am and what my values and my goals are for my family, as far as hard work and understanding that, hey, we don't quit until the job's done. We just keep going.